Hey guys, JJ back here. This time to chat on Cincinnati, Houston. Seeing the line at Cincy -2, total 128.5. So we grab another win on the channel, this time in favor of Siena. Quite a bit of a sweat down the stretch, but I need you all to not get so caught up in the results portion of these things. I mean, it's great. Look, channel is 16-4. It's good for 80%. But I can't stress enough how unsustainable this is. I see the writing on the wall. I'm not naive, especially in this when it comes to things in this industry. And I want to be clear: the results will not always be there. I think people in this industry are so results oriented. Like, oh man, you got that game wrong. Like, this score was this, or you know, like for instance, take the LSU game. A few nights ago, LSU loses. What happened? I guess it could have went either way at the end of that game. But what I'm getting at is, if people so many times think you're either right or you're wrong based on the result. And don't get me wrong, you will get paid if you have the right result, and you'll lose money if you have the wrong result. But what you guys need to continue to do to yourself is grade yourself properly, win or lose. I think that we so often always remember the tough losses, the bad beats in sports betting, but the games that we felt, maybe the games that we shouldn't have won that we did, we just kind of like forget about. It's like, oh, cash that ticket, even though you don't necessarily deserve it. Now, like I said, you're going to sweat some games, you'll lose some heartbreakers, you'll win games you should have lost, you'll lose games you should have won. But as I said, I mean, after the game, make sure you are grading yourself appropriately. And don't get caught up and obsessed with the actual result of the game. Like I said, the channel's been good with the results, but for me, it's a process thing. The process for everybody here, everybody watching, it needs to be better for everyone, because over time your results will come with it. The result is basically just the cherry on top. Don't obsess over it. I've had various people over the years come up to me and say, hey man, what a great call in that game, how you handicapped it, everything you said wasn't even a sweat. How'd you know? And my answer is always the same thing: we got a favorable number. That's all this stuff is. It's getting favorable numbers. Over time, you will win. Are we going to win at 80%? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But, over time, getting the favorable numbers, you will be able to win long term. Because, again, once you place the bet with the favorable number and handicap the shit out of the game, once the game has begun, it's out of your hands. The game is out of your hands. Out of your hands. So the number in itself will define you long term, how good your winning percentage will be. But again, don't obsess over the results. They've been good on this channel. Don't obsess over them. One thing I wanted to mention as well is that when people bet, and just a common practice of talking with various people throughout my years of sports betting, and obviously my father as well. Everybody loves betting favorites and betting overs. But what you don't often hear people say are things like, "I love this over at this number." Because of this number of 12 because XYZ, or I want to lay 11.5 with this team because of XYZ. But I'll tell you, I wouldn't lay 13.5, but I would lay 11.5. I think that way too often people are like, oh, I like this number, this team against the spread, fucking bullshit, against the spread this, against the spread that. This team on the road it can't win, or this team at home has been struggling. They give minor isolated incidents. And it's like, and what it is it's cheap research. It's cheap research. They're not legitimately dedicating time to the research process. It's lazy. These people are lazy. That's why betting favorites is so easy. Oh, I can get a favorite. Great. I'll lay I'll lay 3-4 points, or 7 or 8 points, or this is why so many people root for overs, because who wants to bet a game and root for unders, right? You got to watch a game and root for baskets to miss. Who the hell wants to do that? But I'll tell you who does that. People who win money sports betting do that. You'll notice me, I don't bet a lot of overs really ever. I think out of all these games I've given, I might have given you one over out of all these games. And I think it might have been one of the losses. But it just goes to show that I don't really bet. I bet unders. I'm an under guy, and I'm an underdog guy. I don't really bet too many overs and too many favorites. But in most cases, you'll see a lot of the games I bet are either smaller dogs or small favorites. This avoids me from having to worry about the spread at all. You'll rarely see me lay 6 or 7 points in a game, and when I do, it's typically very favorable. Did it with Louisville last week, and they won pretty easily. I think as a 7.5 point favorite, they won by 14. But keep in mind, I'm not in a situation where I want to be crossing my fingers that guys hit free throws late or guys miss a three at the buzzer. I know that we've been sweating a few of these recently, but we've been sweating them with small spreads. I mean, imagine if we were laying more points. I mean, how much of a sweat these wind up being, or easy losses. Like I said, here's the thing: when you're betting an over in a game, you're rooting for baskets, so it makes it more fun. I know that there's certain people out there that only bet overs, and look, to each his own. But you've already shrunk your playing field in half if you're only going to bet overs and you're only going to bet favorites. I know that some of you might be like, oh, well, I mix it up all the time. So what are you talking about? But I know various people that will only bet overs and only bet favorites, and they will convince themselves that this favorite's going to win or this game's going to go over. You need to start getting yourself in the habit of betting unders, betting underdogs, mixing it up a bit, and finding favorable spots to bet both sides. Both sides. When you bet an under, okay, you already have a winning ticket in your hand. Okay, the game needs to beat you. You bet an under. The game you're watching needs to beat you. Look at it like that, and hopefully, you'll want to bet more unders moving forward. Now, I'm not sitting here telling you to look at the slate tomorrow and just start cracking unders and dogs. No. What I'm saying is do it more than you're already doing today. Almost the large part of the sports betting industry bets favorites and bets overs. We need to change the paradigm a bit, shift it. Start getting yourself in the habit of betting more underdogs, betting more unders. These are things that, guys like myself do a lot of sharp guys that I know bet a lot of unders, bet a lot of underdogs. These are the types of bets you want to be making long term. And look, as far as the underdogs, when you bet an underdog, you're getting two opportunities to cash a ticket. You could win, either the underdog could win straight up, or the underdog could cover the spread. Now, from a motivational perspective, the underdog in any game is always going to have more motivation to come back. Why? Because they're losing. Okay, a favorite, if you lay 7 or 8 points in a game, the favorite, where's the motivation of that team to cover the spread outside of giving them a better chance to win the game, right? I mean, where's the motivation late in a game if you're laying 12 and it's an 11-point game? Where's the motivation in that team to make sure they score, make sure they're playing at 100%, make sure their energy's at 100%, make sure they all care as much? They know they're going to win that game. They're up 11 with a minute left or a minute and a half left. Why make yourself sweat those type of outcomes? That's why, like I said, on this channel, you'll never see me give out double-digit favorites. You'll never see me bet them. I mean, it's just absolute rare scenarios where I do it. But I just want to give you that little tidbit. I want everybody to get more in the habit of betting dogs, betting unders. As the last few bets I've given you here have been dogs and unders. Those will win. I mean, again, a lot of the public really pounds overs and pounds favorites, and we need to shift the paradigm a bit and get everybody more into betting dogs and unders because look, they cash. I mean, they cash. So want to go into this game, Cincy Houston. It is a big matchup in the American Conference. Again, Cincy opens -2. I'm seeing the total at 128.5. I'll tell you this: the team I keep hearing about nonstop whenever I turn on ESPN is Houston, right? The Cougars. They traveled to play Cincinnati in a winner-take-all for the conference championship, or the first place in the conference heading into their championship tournament. If Houston wins, they will be solely in first place. If Cincinnati wins, they will split first place. I will tell you this: despite hearing about how good Cincy is all year, despite Cincy hearing about how good Houston has been all year, Cincinnati tomorrow has the opportunity to share this conference title win, which would be absolutely absurd with considering how Houston started. It is going to be senior day for the Bearcats. Cincinnati will be honoring 2 players. But even still, the fact that it's only 2 players, you can bet your ass that home crowd will be pumped as shit for this game. I know Cincinnati is 0-7 against the spread in their last 7, but I told you all that I am not an against the spread junkie. In most cases, these numbers are irrelevant. It's really a gambler's fallacy about, is this team better than, or is this team better than this or worse than this based on their against the spread? There are times where if a team loses a lot against the spread, the market begins to shift itself where numbers and teams that are better than their new spread is indicating. but that is not the case in this game. Cincinnati has won 5 of those 7 games where they're 0-7 against the spread. One of those losses was a 7-point loss to Houston where they were a 4.5-point dog. They led that game with 6 minutes left. Just kind of got cold late. I don't look at that as a bad loss at all. Again, you're at Houston, the ESPN's darling of a team, and you're in it late. Don't look at that as a bad loss at all, especially against the spread. And the most recent loss was UCF by 3, where Cincinnati was going back and forth with UCF late. And they went real cold in that first half, but still wound up making it a game, making it a very close game late. Close 2.5. They lost by 3. This is certainly a team in Cincinnati that is not loved by the market right now. Especially if you've been using like a martingale system on this team against the spread, betting for them with their most recent losses, thinking that this is the game where they turn it around, this is they win. You've also lost a lot of money doing that as well. But I do believe this against the spread streak comes to an end tomorrow. Houston is having quite the year. If you haven't heard or turned on ESPN at all, once you turn on ESPN to listen to anything college basketball, you will begin to notice a bunch of blowjobs happening in favor of Houston. Here's my issue with this team in this spot. They are not battle-tested on the road. For one thing, they rank 289th in the country in strength of schedule at a conference. That is wildly high. I mean, wildly low for a team talked up as much as Houston is as being one of the top teams in the country. Keep in mind, folks, as well, that the American is not a Power 5 conference either. So once you get past, if you're Houston, once you get past Cincy, UCF, and Temple this year, really, who has Houston actually beaten? Houston hasn't played one top 35 team on the road this year, not even one, as crazy as that might sound. Meanwhile, Cincinnati has one home loss the entire season. That was their first game of the season against Ohio State. I don't even consider that to really matter. A game that early, teams are still trying to find themselves. They lost their first one. They haven't lost since. I don't really look at that as a bad thing, anyway. Now, for how these two teams actually match up, as some of you may already know, Houston has one of the best defenses in the country and a pretty good offense to back that up as well. Cincinnati should struggle to score at various times in this game, but Cincinnati's defense is only ranked 2 spots below Houston's as per KenPom in defensive efficiency. So expect this to be a defensive battle. The reason why I'm not in favor of the under, or at least I have no play on the under, considering these are 2 good defensive teams, I expect the pace of this game to be mildly fast, believe it or not. I know Cincy likes to slow this game down, but Houston likes to play at a tempoed pace, and it could wind up being transition baskets. In a game like this where you have 2 very good defensive teams, you're going to try to move your offense at certain points in the game to not let the defense establish itself. So with that said, I don't believe the pace is going to be in favor of the under, but the defenses will. So that's why the total itself is a no play for me at all. Houston themselves are foul prone, so certainly expect Cincinnati at home to get a few extra calls their way, finding their way to the free throw line. Cincy is incredible on the offensive glass, so expect them to get some putback opportunities, and they don't turn the ball over, ranking 2nd in the country in that category. What we virtually have here is 2 very evenly matched teams, but one of these teams, which is deemed the better team, quote unquote, in Houston, has had a much easier schedule, and thus being the main reason why they sit coming into this matchup with a better record. When these 2 teams met about a month ago, Cincinnati had forced more turnovers, had more offensive rebounds, more free throw attempts. They shot better from 3, and yet still lost by 7. So why was this, right? So this was because they shot 14 for 45 from 2-point range, good for about 31%, while Houston shot 19 of 32, good for over 60%. Just a crazy anomaly of a stat shooting-wise, or a disparity of a stat shooting-wise in that game. I most certainly like Cincinnati to shoot better inside the arc in this one. And it should really come at the hands of their stud, Jaron Cumberland. Their star guard who's been struggling a bit recently. I expect them to run him off a few different screens, get him the ball in space, let him shoot, let him get some jump shots, let him get some open spots to the rim, get to the free throw line. This Cincinnati team runs through him, and when he plays well, they typically win. Expect a good game out of him tomorrow, in Cincinnati's biggest game of the year. Houston could certainly pull up the upset here. Some people might even not consider this an upset. But as mentioned, my biggest worry with Houston is that they haven't really faced a true tough road game yet, or at least what I would consider a true tough road game. And I'm really not sure how well they'll be able to respond to it. This is a nice revenge spot for Cincinnati with senior day in the mix as well. The crowd will be rowdy. Give me the home team here with more to play for in Cincy, the ability to share that conference title with Houston. Houston's going to win that conference title Houston's going to win that title regardless. If Cincy wins, they'll be able to share it. And don't get me wrong, there has been, I'm sure, talks in the locker room of Cincinnati about how good Houston is all year. Here's Cincinnati's chance to share that title with them. So I like them from a motivational perspective. If you can even truly handicap that properly, I like Cincinnati to really want this more. Cincinnati, again, we're getting the -2. Overall, this should be a very good game, a fun game to watch. I can't really guess where this line goes from here. I just have to assume the public is going to eat up the fact that they can get 2 points with Houston. But they may not realize how truly good the Bearcats are at home. So, again, either way, I already laid the 2 with Cincinnati. Again, I'm not really sure where this line is going to go either direction, but I did lay the 2 with Cincinnati. I do believe this is a very favorable spot, in a spot where, Houston may get caught with their pants down here in a game where they don't really have a whole lot to play for because, again, the conference title's theirs anyway. They just will either share it or it'll be theirs on their own. I want to thank you guys for watching. I know the channel's been very good. We've been 16-4 in the picks, so really hoping to stay hot. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please subscribe. I'm trying to give you guys informative content every day. If you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. And again, any comments you have below, feel free to drop. Tell your friends, family about the channel. Definitely trying to give you guys more and more helpful videos as we go along. And I'll be giving you more videos as we ride into the Power 5 conference tournaments, along with the big dance. And then baseball's right around the corner as well. So looking forward to it. I want to thank you guys again for watching, and I'll be back soon.